All right, we're back with something completely different. This is not a high ticket role play. This is a high ticket call review. I'm here with Jeremy Mitchell. We call him the underground Jeremy inside of the mastermind, which is an insider joke. He's been a founding member of the Unicorn Closer Mastermind. And today we're going to look at one of the calls, which I know you have fucked up as well, which is getting on a call with a prospect that can sometimes be a little bit difficult. They may be a little bit triggering. They may be a little bit resistant. They don't really want to open up. When you then combine that with maybe being in a little bit of a bad mood yourself, maybe you've not had some closes for a little while, or just you've got some personal stuff going on. When you combine a slightly more difficult prospect and not showing up 100% as your best self, the call goes awry. That is what happens. You lose the sale, you burn the lead, and you don't get a commission. In this case, it's actually a call for Jeremy's own business. So what I want to show you today is how you need to show up and how you need to navigate a high ticket discovery so that regardless of whether it's an easy prospect or a very difficult prospect, you bring your best performance to the call and you're able to do the absolute best that you can to serve the prospect and to close the deal and make sure that everything happens on the discovery that needs to happen. So we're going to jump in. We're going to review the call in real time. Jeremy has not shown me this call yet, so I have no idea what we're going to see. And we're going to go through it for the first time. So let's crack in. All right. So this is at 1x speed. Now, for everybody watching, the reason you do the opening of a high ticket call in 1x speed is because once we're into the conversation, we're more looking for the questions that are being asked and the responses that we're getting. At the very front part of the call, one of the biggest leading indicators of how the call is going to go is how you show up to the call. So I'm playing this at 1x speed and we're going to see what happens.
Lucas, can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. How's it going?
Good.
Good. I'm Jeremy with Sales Pride. Where are you calling from?
New York, Western New York.
Okay, gotcha. Awesome.
Straight away, general vibe from the guy, pretty concealing as far as keeping his cards close to his chest. That might just be his general vibe. Maybe he's having a bad day. We don't know. We are soon to find out.
Well, I know we've got a limited amount of time.
So what I don't like is, given the type of prospect that we're on the phone with, someone that's quite concealed, you're setting your frame whilst not looking at him, which for someone that is easily triggered, which this guy may be that type of prospect, you are now feeding into their own mind viruses about the world is full of bad people. People are not respectful. People don't give a shit. I'm just on a fucking sales call with a salesperson that's just running through his process. It's not true. I know that you care and you want to genuinely serve this person, but with certain types of prospects, they see everything through a distorted lens. And if you then go and do the slight tiniest thing that can make them go, see, I was right. People are disrespectful. They don't care about me. Then all of a sudden you've created this paradigm and this Pandora's box inside of them. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Even though you jumped on early, I appreciate it. So if you're ready, we can jump right into this.
Sure.
Okay. So I'm definitely curious.
So you obviously mentioned to me just before we hit rolling on the camera that he said sure in kind of a shutdown way.
Mm-hmm.
In the spectrum of worst prospect on the planet to absolute best prospect on the planet, you alluded to me that your perception was, holy shit, this guy's right down here on the end of asshole, disrespectful, really switched off. In my opinion, having been on a number of sales calls, this is much closer to what we would call the median, as in there's a lot of people that just fall in that category of the first few moments of a call, they're pretty shut off. They live their life like that. They've probably never been on a high ticket sales call before. They're a little bit, you know, is this a scam? So I don't think that guy was being an asshole. I just think that's a lot of people. So if from that first moment you were like, oh God, I'm with this type of prospect, you're projecting that into the call, not the prospect. Okay.
Just to dig into your story, And we're just going to have a no BS conversation right now about
Love the way you're delivering that. Perfect pacing, very good, very clear and very strong as well.
where you're at with your business and what you're looking to accomplish. And if that's in alignment with what we do here at Sales Pride, then at that time, I'll go into everything that we do in detail, if that sounds good.
Sure.
Okay.
So honestly, Jeremy, I don't think he did anything wrong yet. I don't think the prospect did anything that was that bad. Now, neither have you. You haven't done anything wrong either. But just before we hit roll on the camera, you told me that these first two responses from the prospect, you thought he's not really playing ball.
Yeah,
I
I thought he
honestly
was
don't
kind of
think
flippant.
I didn't feel that. I just felt that he's just another guy that's pretty switched off. Not the most personable person. I would assume that his limited worded response is more just out of a little bit of fear of being on this online cool thing. You got to bear in mind, I'll probably get fucking flagged for YouTube for saying this, but he's somewhat overweight. And for people that are somewhat overweight, being on a video call with another guy can be a little bit uncomfortable, can be a little bit intimidating. Therefore, their responses are not that they've got an issue with you, not that they've got an issue with being on a sales call. They've got somewhat of a insecurity within themselves. So we've got to, part of what we teach in the mastermind is having this broader understanding of this is this type of prospect. Therefore, he may be a little bit insecure. Therefore, my calibration is I'm going to just be a little bit more compassionate to him, knowing that he may just be a little bit uncomfortable.
And I did the exact opposite. I was like harder on him because I felt like he was being like, yeah, sure. Like he was acting like he was too cool for school.
Yeah, and so this is an interesting thing, which is called like second order consequences. It's explained in one area in the book Principles by Ray Dalio, and it's like the first order consequence of someone being like very direct in their responses, very short in their responses, could be, oh, he's a bit of an asshole. But the second order consequence, you have to ask why. Why is he maybe being a bit of an asshole? Why is he maybe being a little bit short in his responses? And when you go another layer deeper, the negative flips into a positive, which is shit, maybe this guy is pretty unhappy with his life and he's pretty unhappy with the way he looks and he's pretty unhappy with the fact that he's got a shit camera living in by the look of it, a pretty average place to live. Maybe this guy is really uncomfortable with what he's accomplished or lack of in his life. So when we look at things one layer deep, we can calibrate our response in completely the opposite way as to if we ask why again. And there's a thing in psychology and personal development that's called the trail of whys. If you keep asking, but why, but why, but why, but why, you eventually get to a discovery which is so different to the first instinctive consideration, which is, oh, this guy's just really short and he's a bit of an asshole. Make sense?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's kind of like assuming the law of positive intent here. I was assuming negative intent.
Correct. And it's also being even more curious. It's not, I, Underground Jeremy, am curious that this guy's response seems a bit short. Okay, you had the awareness to be reading his responses. That's good. A lot of salespeople wouldn't even do that. But then you have to be even more curious and go a layer deeper, which is, I wonder if he's all right. I wonder what's going on. And it's continuing to go more and more curious and less judgmental. All right. So let's keep going.
Now, you seem a little, I'm trying to see how to call it. You seem a little standoffish.
Oof. So if you'd have said what you said at the beginning and didn't put a label on it, I think that would have worked quite well. If you'd have just said, you seem a little bit, I can't quite put my finger on it, but like maybe something's up, and you'd have just said that, I think he would have opened up, because as we've discussed in a lot of live trainings, the prospect might go, fuck me, this sales guy actually cares. Like he actually noticed that I'm maybe a little bit uncomfortable. That would have actually worked massively in your favor. But because you labeled it as an assumptive, you're being a bad person to me, you're standoffing me, it was very confrontational, very confrontational. Okay, so let's see what happens now. I'll Not be surprised if it starts kicking off now.
No, I'm not good.
Okay, so you good?
So he's basically saying, no, dude, I'm fine. Which is like, it's either it's just his personality and the way he lives life, and or he isn't actually fine, but it's so deep into his own insecurities that he's not going to tell you, a stranger, in the first 2 minutes of a phone call. But he is, in my opinion, certainly not trying to make your life difficult or be not nice to you. I do not think that.
Move, ready to dive deep and have a no BS conversation?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's totally fine. Also, I don't want to assume too much, but like, if I can say this on YouTube, like, I don't think he's like the highest IQ person. Like, maybe he is, maybe he's fucking Albert Einstein, but the vibe I get is he's just one of those kind of rednecky, simple type of guys. Like, he works hard, he's a hard worker, he does his job, he does his life. He's not a conversationalist. He's not an intellect, as we would say. He's just, yeah, I'm fine, dude. Like, let's crack in. Okay.
I'm not quite convinced. We don't have to do this if you're.
So when you said I'm not quite convinced and he laughed, that was also fine. That was very calibrated. That was totally fine. But I would have stopped there, let him laugh, and then come to you. Say, no, dude, I'm cool. He probably would have said something like, no, dude, I'm cool. I just don't talk much. All right, no worries. Well, I'm going to try my best to pull it out of you and we'll see how we get on. And then you crack in. Yeah, like you would have had a real, nice bit of banter and then got into it. But your additional responses are, you're trying to make the prospect come to you rather than back off a little bit and let them warm up to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Not serious about growing your business.
No,
I
I
definitely
am.
wouldn't have said that. Definitely wouldn't have said that.
I'm just easy going. You know what I mean?
Literally what I just said.
Yep.
He's just a simple dude.
Yep.
He just sitting there on his Zoom call with a total stranger, probably never had a fucking video call in his life. And he's like, dude, I'm just simple. Cool. Awesome. Now, by the way, if we do get into this temperature checking in the front part of the call, and we're like, I'm not sure if you're all right, I don't believe you, whatever, and that comes to a conclusion. Once you get out of that, you have to do something that UM taught me, which is called moving the emotional wheel, which means we're in this temperature check type of vibe of like, hey man, I'm not really sure. I'm checking you, you're checking me, we're sizing each other up. Let's dance and see what's going on. Once you get to the point where you and him agree, like, no, I'm just a simple guy, you want to flip your energy. And so instead of saying, okay, cool, you don't want to do that, you'd say, awesome. Like you want to move your emotion into a completely different realm, and then it like breaks the ice. It's like, we've done that, we're cracking in. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. All right.
All right. That's better. All right. Sounds good. So
I'm not a massive fan of the that's better. Why do you think that is?
I don't know, Josh.
No worries. The reason I'm not a massive fan of the that's better is it kind of sounds like you were telling him, which we are, by the way, but indirectly, if you didn't choose to show up in a better way, I'm not going to take the call with you. Now, here's the thing. The best type of communication with, especially things with frame control, is indirect or inexplicit. You don't want to explicitly say, well, good, I'm glad that you decided to fix that. That's not the words you said, but it was the demeanor you put across. It's like, well, I'm glad you fucking bucked your ideas up.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Whereas just saying, awesome. Now he's like, okay, cool. As opposed to, awesome. Well, that's much better. You kind of sound like you're telling him he has to play to your tune, which is true on a sales call. If he really didn't fix his frame, you'd have to say, listen, dude, I would love to be able to help you, but based on the way that this call started, I just don't feel like we would have alignment today. More than happy to book in a call again tomorrow if maybe you just want to wrap up some things you've got going on. You absolutely can and would and should do that if the frame doesn't come to a point where they are showing up in the way that you expect them to, out of respect, because you're going to bring your best self to them. But more importantly, if they show up in the wrong frame, they ain't going to enroll and they aren't going to be successful. So
Right.
you can do that. But in this case, that wasn't that. I would have just said awesome. So
Just going to go right for the jugular here. And I remember reading through your DMs. I know that you have a construction company and that gutters were kind of a small part of it.
also, again, going off my little assumption with this guy maybe being just more of a blue collar type of guy rather than an intellectual guy, I would change my communication to be much more staccato. So you said something like, you know, I went back through our DMs. I had a look at those. I remember that you're a gutter guy, blah, 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 blah. I would have taken that piece by piece. So I went back through our DMs, pause. And I remember that you're blank, 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 pause, and blank, blank, blank. Just so that this guy can process things one piece at a time. What you don't want to do is this guy accumulate and accumulate a bunch of things to process, and then he's like, "The fuck's going on?" Yeah. So
Sure.
it's slight calibration to communication just based on the type of prospect.
But in your opinion,
Don't say but. And in your opinion. Don't say but in your opinion.
what's the biggest thing? What's the biggest challenge that you're having with growing your business to being $1 million business right now?
So my biggest thing
Is that your new version that you're adding in $1 million business?
I'm trying to play with it. I'm trying to figure out like what's the most impactful way for me to ask that question. Rather than just saying what's your biggest challenge with growing your business right now? I'm trying to get them, it's almost like I'm trying to get them to think bigger. Growing their business, you know, is so vague. Like if you did a $300,000 and you did 400,000, well, okay, you grew your business. But like that's not what I'm trying to help them with. You know, I'm not just trying to add $100,000 to their gutter business. I'm trying to help them hit multiple millions if they want to.
Okay, we're going to go balls deep now. So,
Okay.
if I were to take any principle that is going to take you, Jeremy, to the absolute next level, it's going to be this. The key word that you used when you explained your rationale to why you were trying out some different opening questions was, I'm trying to get blank, to get them to do blank, to get this. The more and more and more you try and make things happen, you are in a frame which is called force. And there's a book by David Hawkins, which is called Power versus Force. Force is where you're trying to make things happen. Have you got it there?
Yeah, it's since I moved, it's out of order, but yeah, it's back there somewhere.
Nice.
I'll find it. Yeah.
And power is where instead of being in a state of I'm trying to get this, to manipulate this, to get this result, you want to move more into a state of being. I'm allowing, I'm inviting, I'm allowing this to happen as it may. And this is what so many salespeople screw up is they want to be the best. They want to help a lot of people. They want to close a lot of deals and they want to make a lot of money. The way that they're approaching that is trying to get things to happen, trying to push things into a certain way. And the irony is the best way to help someone, the best way to close more deals, and the best way to make more money is to invite the other person to step up if they so choose. And so the way you're playing with the opening question, the way that you were playing with the rapport and the framing at the front of this call, the whole shift across the whole board, across the whole game, the whole field that you need to change, which will be game changer for you, is moving away from this frame of I'm trying to get things to happen and more into this place of I'm just being. I'm Jeremy, the founder and the CEO of Sales Pride. I have a great sales training and I'm excited to invite you to join us if we find that we've got alignment. It's just this completely different vibe to everything. Kind of, and the other thing that comes from trying or force as opposed to power, one of the shifts that we make accidentally when we try and move things through force, we also try and compress timelines. And so you're trying to get someone from the juicy opening question to already be seeing a much bigger vision. just from the opening question. You got to give people time. You got to give them space. You got to walk them through that mental transformation. You can't compress it into one question and say, well, if I can just get everything done in one question. I get it. It comes from a place of ambition. It comes from a place of wanting more, wanting to grow, wanting to excel, wanting to expand. But the irony is that the more we're trying to grasp for expansion, the more we're actually in this tension, in this friction of like, fuck, I'm trying to make things happen. And that friction, that tension is the opposite of grace. And when we come at things from a place of grace, things flow. Things just happen. Things just come to us. We just find ourselves in this magical aura of abundance. So if there were one thing from this private training that we're doing today that I want you to really, really hone in on is, how can I move from Jeremy from force to Jeremy in power and just being rather than trying to force? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That's very impactful. Appreciate it. And found the book. So thank you.
It's nice. In what way was it impactful? I sensed that you're moved in some ways. So
yeah, it's I'm trying to like impart my will, and I'm trying to, it's exactly what it is. I'm trying to force it to happen. And it's like, okay, here we are 3 weeks into the month. I just had a record month last month. I'm trying to hit a record month again next month. You know, I've got the award up there. I'm trying to double that one next month. And, but it was through forcing, cramming, you know, just, okay, I'm so close. Let me just offer a couple low price tickets just to get the sales to that number, rather than just being like, well, okay, I finished at 48, you know? And so this book's been recommended before in the past. There's so many books, obviously, in the suggested reading that it's hard to nail down one. But I think that there was definitely a twinge there, and it's just truth. So appreciate it.
you're very welcome. Yeah, I mean, obviously the recommended reading is generic to the point of these are the best books for everybody. But if there were two books that you need to become part of, it's Power versus Force and Letting Go, both by the same author. If you download into your spirit and your soul the transformations from those two books, and to be honest, Jeremy, I'm rereading Letting Go because I slip up on this sometimes as well, where I'm trying to make things happen. I'm like, oh fuck, I'm trying to just cram. I'm trying to just cram. And so I'm rereading Letting Go myself because I'm like, you know what? I just need to let things happen. Yeah. So we're all on that same path. Sometimes it's a process which is a spiral.
Yep.
As you go up, you get to a higher level, but at each placement on a 2D plane, we go through the same challenges again, but at a higher plane. So like I went through the challenge of having to let go at a very, very low plane. I accomplished it. I moved through it. I've then gone up and I'm at a higher frequency going through the same thing again, having to, you know, at a bigger scale, we could say running a bigger business, having somewhat influence, you know, bumping into people on the street that say, oh, I know who you are. And then you get back into that place of I'm trying to push the business to grow, or trying to, you know, push something in my life. And we just have to re-go through those learning experiences. Yeah. But more than anything, for you, having worked with you for a year, the biggest thing is that as you let go and allow success to come to you, I've seen it a number of times, you hit record months. Then on the opposite side of the record month, there's this feeling of like, fuck, I need to do that again. If I don't do that again, it was a fluke, or it was a coincidence, or I'm a failure or something. And then because you move into that mindset, the way that you respond to that mindset is I need to make it happen. I need to force it to happen. And then you're actually in the exact opposite state that you're in when it did happen. It did just happen when you let go and you just enjoyed the process, did your ads, did your coaching, reached out to people who need to reach out, and just did what you needed to do. And then things just built momentum and snowballed positively on their own. You got to stay in that state even after you win. Go, wow, this is so cool. This is awesome. I'm just going to let go and let it all happen all over again. and actually it will grow. It will build even more momentum. All good?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. All right, let's see what happens next.
There's some competition.
Okay.
Not huge competition, I don't think. I mean, there's an Amish guy that I mean, he's doing gutters for $5 a foot.
Okay.
You know, but he's one guy, so he can't. You know, and we live between two major cities, between Buffalo and Rochester. So I'm not too. There's plenty of work. I just gotta get our name out there. You know what I mean?
Okay. So
So then
pause
you
real
would
quick.
summarize.
Yeah. So I did summarize, but I feel like the next question, after listening to it now a second time or a third time, I'm realizing I feel like the next question should have been, okay, what are you doing to try to get your name out there right now? Or what's
No,
stopping you from getting your name out there right now?
that's an amazing question. But if we gather the data first and then ask the why, it's anchored against the pain. Let me give you a simple example.
Okay.
Okay, so why are you not getting the business? It's not a bad question.
Yeah.
But the response that he's going to say is, well, you know, I don't know. I'm not sure. It could be this, could be that, blah, 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 blah. Look at the difference there. If I say, okay, got it. So there is business out there, but you're not getting it. He says, yes. That was my summary. How much business did you get in the last 7 days? 0. Okay. How much did you get in the last 2 weeks? 0. Huh, okay. In the last 4 weeks, how much business did you get? 0. Interesting. So what I'm wondering, what's his name? Ian? Lucas. So what I'm wondering, Lucas, is why do you think, knowing how much business is out there, that you're not securing that business? Same question you were going to ask as the first question in the discovery, but I've now backed it up with bringing him down into reality, bringing him into the pain, bringing him into the problem, bringing him into the actuality. Then I'm asking him why. When I then ask him why, he has to really fucking think about that, because he's like, he's in the frame of I'm screwed. I'm not making any money. I'm not getting any business. I'm not where I want to be. Jeremy has now asked me a very thoughtful question. I need to actually think about it. Whereas when you ask someone before you gather the data, it's just up in the air. They don't really think about it. Think of it like a doctor. If you go to a doctor and you say, oh, you know, I'm coughing and spluttering, blah, blah, blah. And the very next thing the doctor says is, well, why do you think you're coughing and spluttering? It's not going to do much. As opposed to, you go into the doctors, you say, I'm coughing and spluttering. He gets out the little stethoscope thing, puts it on your lungs, and he says, breathe. And as you breathe, you can hear the little, I think they're called areoli or something, the little things in your lungs, they're cracking and they're popping. And he's saying, right, breathe deeper. And you're like, and it's just all cracking. And he does that, and then he weighs you, and then he looks at this, and he looks in your eyes, and he does this, and then he says, so why do you think you've got this issue with your breathing? Now the whole frame is completely fucking different, because he's just taken you through a massive diagnosis.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. Basically, it sounds like your biggest challenge is that you don't have the name, or well-recognized name, like a leaf filter does, and you're charging a higher price than the one-man guy does.
Yeah.
So whether he says yes or not, you're leading. You're massively leading. Same thing that we just spoke about. So I won't beat on a dead horse, but you're trying to get him to agree to the things that you know you feel competent to sell, as far as the ideology. Oh, it's the price, and it's you don't have brand name, and it's you're not leaf filter, blah, blah. And also your summary was not quite accurate, because the biggest challenge is not his pricing or his branding. The biggest challenge, to be very specific, is so you know there's business out there, but you're not securing it. That's exactly the words he said. He knows there's business out there and he's not securing it.
Yeah.
Which is also very different, because it makes the guy face the ownership. Like, yeah, fuck, there is business out there and I'm not getting it. Yeah. We're same thing I said before. We're jumping so much later in the call with, okay, well, you know, what is it that would get you to secure the business that is out there that you're not securing it? He then says, maybe having better organization with my pricing. He then says, maybe better branding, maybe having, you know, some element that connects me to the recognition of leaf filter. That is beautiful stuff, but way later in the call.
Yeah, I wrote down when I was listening to him, I wrote down competition, and he's selling for a low price, competition selling for a low price of $5 a foot, and he's not getting his name out there. And that was the only notes that I took, but you did a much better job of recapping what his real problem and he did say that he knows that there's business out there. And then you saying,
And when we're gathering data, remember, why do we gather data, Jeremy?
well, we're trying to figure out what the problem is, and we're trying to get the prospect to like relive that problem and that pain.
Correct. We only gather data to find the pain.
Yeah.
That's the only reason. It doesn't matter to just have a bunch of stats on a fucking checklist. Oh, this many leads. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What matters is when we gather the data, they're having to feel the pain of what actually is called somatically inside their body. Something will make them feel uncomfortable. If we take those four things that you just said, pricing, competition, brand, so his name, and knowing there's business out there, of those four, which is the one that has the pain behind it?
Yeah, definitely knowing that there's business out there. And I guess I maybe didn't hear it because I was writing down the notes or something.
Yeah. That's an interesting point. When I think about that now, I don't usually write while the prospect's saying the thing that I would be writing. So what I'm saying is the prospect will say something and I listen and I think and then I write it down. So I'm not listening to them and writing at the same time. I'm not what's it called in meetings where you have like
transcribing.
I'm not transcribing what they're saying as they're saying it. I'm extracting the information, assimilating it, processing it, and then going, okay, I need to take a note of that, that, and that. But if you try and miss the processing exactly as you did, you'll not necessarily write down the right things.
Yeah.
Because how do you know what's the right thing until you process?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll say it again, just so it's crystal clear. He doesn't feel any pain about his price. Doesn't really feel any pain about his branding. Ironically, he doesn't even feel any pain that there's competition. What hurts him is he's like, there is fucking business and I'm not getting it. That's where the annoyance was, the frustration, it could be me, it should be me. Why isn't it me? It's not me. That's where the pain was. And so when we take our summary and we make sure we grasp the right bit of pain and we then summarize it back to him, he's now having to go deeper into that fucking pain even more. Yeah. So I say, okay, got it. So you know there's business out there, but you're not getting it. Is that accurate? And then he's going to go, oh, yes. And not only is he going to go, oh, yes, thinking about the pain, he's also going to have one majorly critical realization, which is Underground Jeremy don't fuck around. Underground Jeremy knows exactly where to put the fucking knife in. In other words, he's not going to give you smokescreen objections. He's not going to try and not answer your questions for the rest of the discovery. He's going to tell you straight how it is because he knows you don't fucking miss a beat. And so every time we don't miss a beat, we attract through our accuracy, through our, as Jordan Belfort says, being sharp as attack, we attract a higher version of the prospect to show up to the call and give me what I fucking need because I'm going to get the fucking data and we're going to figure this thing out together. Every time you miss a beat, the prospect just slowly, death by 1,000 cuts, loses respect for you and feeling like they actually need to fucking answer the questions correctly. Or they'll just give you a smokescreen, say they need to ask their wife. Like from that first moment where I'd have summarized that back to and said it back to the person, in that moment, that's the type of thing which prevents this guy from 2 seconds into the call, at the end of the call saying, well, I need to ask my wife. Like literally just the accuracy of me being able to summarize that back to him. He's like, fuck me. And it's not even conscious for 99% of prospects. They unconsciously, they're like, holy shit, this guy's an expert. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So what do you think Leaf Filter would say about that Amish guy charging $5 a foot?
I don't know. Probably doesn't bother them.
Probably doesn't bother them one little bit, right?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't let it bother me either. You know what I mean? We're busy, but I would like to.
You see how because we didn't just gather the data, he can say that. He ain't going to say it doesn't bother me when we say, okay, got it. So the business that's out there, how much of that did you secure this week? 0. Okay, what about all the business that's been out there for the last 2 weeks? How much of that did you secure? None. Okay, what about all the business that's been available for the last 30 days? How much of that did you secure? None. He ain't going to turn around and say it doesn't bother me. Because if he did, he makes himself look like an idiot. Oh, not a big deal. Really? Interesting. So why are we on this call? Like it wouldn't go there, but that would just be how ridiculous it would be if he said that. Same thing again. So again, don't want to beat a dead horse, but the question was so much trying to rush the process of getting this guy to see himself as being stupid by like trying to reframe him with like a very heavy-handed question, like, well, what would Leaffield to say? You're doing things that need to be done, working 100 times harder than you need to. And one of the things that prospects are subconsciously thinking is, if this person is having to work so hard to get me to see the light and is having to work so hard to close me, I wonder how graceful their fulfillment process is going to be with helping me get easy results. Does that make sense? It's like if you're watching someone that's just making a fucking dog's meal out of trying to get them to see things, subconsciously their brain is like, fuck me, I wonder how many spreadsheets they've got to help me get more sales and how many PDFs I have to read and how quote unquote disorganized all the things are that I'm going to have to do to get the result. When they see the closer, even though the closer is not fucking connected to the fulfillment, the prospect doesn't think that far. When they see the closer and they're like, fuck me, this closer is like a jaguar hunting its prey from tree to tree to tree and then pouncing and slicing that fucking gazelle's throat. The prospect is like, holy shit, like the fulfillment must be sharp as a knife. It must just be so precise and so surgical. I want to buy whatever that fucking fulfillment is. Does that make sense? How all of this thing is such a bigger landscape than closers really realize.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be busier, you know.
How you doing?
Feeling a bit like I'm questioning if I'm doing the right thing.
In what sense? Well, hang on. Sorry to interrupt. Before I answer you, you're on this call, Jeremy. Most people wouldn't be in the highest level mastermind, certainly wouldn't be a fucking business owner admitting that they still have more to learn, and wouldn't be on a additional training on a Friday evening when they've got a business to run, thinking, I let that prospect down. I let my best self down. I am not earning the money that I want to be making because I'm losing certain deals that I could be closing. So rather than beat yourself down because we all screw up, view it in a positive way that you're on this call with me. I'm going to help you. And I know you're going to help yourself and take the things that I'm giving you and implement them and action them. We're going to get this fixed. And most little fucking pussies that are watching this on YouTube are trying to get all free fucking content instead of actually investing money and working with a mentor. So don't beat yourself down, Jeremy. Okay. You're here. They're not. They're just, oh, what's some fucking free content? Right. You're 1,000 times above them. Okay.
All right.
So let's get this handled.
Okay. So how much are you charging per foot right now?
So it depends. So a lot of our work is two big companies.
I have to pause, brother, if you need a break, because I need you on the camera. Do you need a minute?
Yeah, I just need a minute.
All good. Just shout, I'm going to grab a cup of coffee. Just let me know when you're ready, okay? No matter how good I am at sales, I'm not perfect. I still fuck up calls. Even a role play, even one that I'm going to put on YouTube. So I put it on YouTube. And it's there on YouTube. It's going to be there forever on YouTube. People can watch it and go, fuck, that guy's shit at closing. He fucked up the role play. And I'm like, well, I may have fucked up that role play. And I certainly fucked up calls when I was making 100K a month. But I closed 93% of them. That doesn't mean there wasn't 7% that I didn't close. The difference between you and I and every other fucking closer is that when we don't close or we screw something up, we don't bury our head in the sand and say, oh, well, I'm just going to leave I'm going to not do any more sales training or be in part of a mastermind, and I'm just going to bury my head in the sand and just deny and repress and pretend and lie to myself that, you know, that's a problem. No, we get emotional, we care, we think, fuck, am I an imposter? We think, fuck, should I be a sales trainer? Should I be a mentor? And that's the difference, Jeremy, between true champions and true honorable champions and the people that are sat there making 10K a month, making 15K a month, making 20K a month in commission, and not even having the integrity, the authenticity, or the humility to say, you know what? I'm taking 50 calls a week and I'm only fucking closing 20 of them. There's 30 that I'm letting the prospect down. I'm not mastering communication. I'm not that good at sales. And so hopefully this is making sense. The fact that you're having those moments to think is why I love you being in the mastermind, is why you're supposed to be in the mastermind, and why the 10K a month closers are going to stay 10K a month closers and not be in the mastermind, because they don't have that level of heart or level of soul to care like you and I do.
Just choked up, man.
Right? So while you put yourself together, guys, we had a quick interlude there, and we had an interlude for something extremely important that you need to be aware of. And that is this. Even though I am, in my opinion, the best high ticket closer that you will come across, I still fuck up calls. In fact, if you want to go and see me fuck up a call, go back to the last video on YouTube, the one I posted with Nicole and MJ. It's the longest one that we have up there so far. It's an hour and 45 minutes, so you'll find it. And on the second role play that I did, I kind of butchered it. I was like, you know what? Getting off the back of this role play, I should have probably asked some questions that I did not ask. And I don't mind posting that on YouTube because I know that that makes me human. It makes me real. But here's the key. You can be a human being and you can be a real person, but you are going to fall into one of two buckets. And which one of those buckets you choose to be a member of, which one of those you choose to pay your membership for, is going to determine your future. If you choose to pay membership every single month to the bucket of, I'm good enough, I don't need to get any better, I don't care enough about my prospects, I don't care enough about being my best self, then the cost and the price of you paying for that membership is the death of the best version of yourself. On top of that, it's you being responsible for killing off the dreams of all the prospects that book on your calendar, that hope and pray that you're going to fucking show up the way you're supposed to show up to help them. And you don't, because you're too fucking selfish. You don't care enough. You don't care enough about yourself. You don't care enough about your family. You don't care enough about your friends, your kids, your wife, your husband. You don't give a fuck about your prospects. And then there's bucket B, which is Jeremy and myself and the other members of the Unicorn Closer Mastermind that turn up and admit they're not as good as they could be. And that bothers them. That gets them emotional. That gets me fucking emotional. Because this is a duty. This is an honor. This is a profession where people's lives are on the line. If it doesn't bother you that the only prospects you close are fucking lay down sales where you're just processing payment like a little bitch, then screw you. You shouldn't even be a high ticket closer. Because there are prospects that book on your calendar that need you to be in a sales training, that need you to be in a mastermind, that need you to admit when you sometimes feel like you're an imposter and you're not good enough. At least you have the humility and the humbleness to say, fuck, I'm screwing up prospects. I'm screwing up leads. I'm screwing up my best version of myself. So Jeremy and I had to take a little breather for a minute to have a conversation about which bucket are you going to be in? You're going to be in the bucket where you quit, you bury your head in the sand, you say, oh, you know what, 10K a month's fine, 15K a month's fine, 20K a month's fine, I'll just stay there. I'll keep smoking cigarettes, I'll keep being fat, I'll keep eating shit, keep hanging out with my loser friends. I'll take my sales calls for the day, close 1 or 2, take my 10K a month commission check, and then won't do any other sales training? Or are you going to put yourself, commit yourself, invest in being in bucket B, which is where champions are born, which is taking an honest, hard look at where you're at, taking an honest, hard look at what it's going to take to get to the next level, and then putting one foot in front of the other, making the time investment, the financial investment, the spiritual investment to no longer let your best self die, to no longer let those prospects that book in a call with you lose the opportunity to live their best lives because you just weren't a good enough person to take this profession more seriously. So, interlude over. All right, Jeremy.
All right.
You good?
Yeah, let's crack in.
All right, let's keep going.
Leave it to me to get emotional.
We both get emotional, brother.
Construction business, we do a lot of pole barns and stuff.
Okay.
And we do gutters for that. Plus
Okay.
we have a big pole barn company that has like 6 or 7 crews that we do all their gutters on all their barns.
Okay.
And then we hooked up with a roofing company that we ended up doing all their gutters. Yeah, we didn't hook up with them till like September. But, gutters never really been a focus until, probably the last, since about June, you know what I mean?
Okay.
We kind of decided that so I got 2 sons. One's going to take over the gutter business. The other one's going to take over the other construction business.
Okay.
So I'm trying to, like I told my one son that's going to take over the gutters. There's no reason why, we can't grow it into at least $750,000, I would think, per year,
Okay.
So the first question I want to ask him is, so knowing that you wanted to build this business for you and for your sons, and you mentioned that you've moved to focusing on gutters, why did that mean you had to focus more on gutters? I'm not sure the connection in his mind. Oh, well, the previous products that we had, we're not going to be able to scale the business. And what that's doing is it's blocking off that as a partial objection. Oh, well, I'll just go back to focusing on selling whatever else I was selling. We don't want him to say that. So we need to get him on record saying, yeah, Jeremy, as I mentioned, I got my 2 kids, we've moved into focusing on the gutters. And the reason that we made that decision was blank. Oh, okay, got it. Makes sense. And it's going to be some reason that what he was doing before wasn't going to get him to where he needed to be. Make sense?
Yes, sir. So if your sons are taking over the business, how come they're not on this call with us?
So it won't be for probably 3 or 4 years. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So
why is it important to you to be able to grow?
So same thing again, you know what you needed to ask and you are going in the right direction, but the intention was quite combative because you took a bit of a leap of assumption of, well, why the son's not on the call? What you could have just said is, okay, what is the timeline in which you want to have your sons take over the business? He then says, oh, it's 4 years away. Now your question of trying to leapfrog into kind of challenging him a little bit was redundant because he would have just said, oh, it's 4 years away. Okay, cool. Makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. So same thing again. We're just leapfrogging a little bit.
This business to be in a $750,000 business so that when you turn it over to them, why is that important to you?
Well, that's the whole reason why I started my whole construction company was to give them, a better.
Huge, massive, juicy consequence, severity. He started his whole business to be able to give something to his legacy, to give something to his kids, and he ain't getting the business that's out there. Massive, huge pain point.
Beginning and what I had to start with, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like the majority of your gutter business is basically coming as you're being a subcontractor for these.
So as I've said, the biggest thing we're missing 5 minutes in is what are those numbers? How many sales, how many leads, how much money, blah, blah, blah.
Big roofing companies.
That's where most of our business is right now. And,
what I knew going into it was that he had only done 150K, but he'd only done it since June. And he told me that through the DMs, but I didn't discuss it on the call here. And then I didn't know how much he did in the gutter business, and you'll hear how I misunderstood one of his text messages because I thought that his construction business had done 500K and that he only did like 150 on the gutter business, and he was trying to get the gutter business to 500K. I thought that's what he had said in the DMs, but I misunderstood.
Got it. And then you've heard me say this on a live call, but even if we've got info from an application form, from a setter, from a DM, we still need to get them on record to say it. Why is that?
Because they need to relive that.
And why is that?
So they feel that pain again.
Correct.
Yeah.
We
Instead of me just saying it, it doesn't allow their brain to process that pain. They have to actually like process it.
Correct. We close someone not because of logical tie downs, not because of a logical consequence. We close someone. We get them out of their most uncomfortable, comfort zone into the most uncomfortable place they can possibly be, which is giving a total fucking stranger the 16 digits of their card number and committing to do the work after they've paid the money by getting them into a state of pain and guilt and shame and frustration with not being in a better place that they could be. In other words, I'm currently living in a lesser version of my full potential. We have to get them into the state. It's the state that causes the sale. It's not the, oh, well, you know, you only got one sale and you only made $2,000 and logic. It's getting the data so that they feel this heaviness of their heart. They're like, fuck, business is sucking, and I got into this whole business to build it for my kids, and I'm fucking failure as a father, and I'm letting them down. And they're in this state. And then you say, let me ask you, man, how much longer do you want to be like that? And you ask that question, penetrating them at the state that they're in, and they're like, dude, I'm done. I'm fucking done. Here's my credit card. Yeah, so we have to get them back into the state on the call, and it's the data that gets them into the state. So even if we've got that data, they're not in the state that they were in when they gave the data. Yeah?
Yep.
If I could get our name out there, like I ordered, 2 weeks ago, I ordered signs, I mean, I believe they're actually going to be delivered today. So, we didn't really advertise where we've been doing work, but, now every place where we put gutters up, we're going to put a sign. I just want to, if I can get away from doing a subcontract, and obviously I can charge a better price,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how much are you charging for these companies when you're installing gutters for them?
So for the one big pole barn company, because they're long straight runs, we're getting $550 a foot.
Okay. Is that including materials or is that just labor?
No, yeah, that's including materials. So
Lord.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I need to get, I mean, the good thing is they're 100+ foot buildings, and we can put them up in, they're straight runs. So it's not like doing houses.
Understood.
Just to go back on the opening of the call, can you see now that like this is a decent guy? Like he's certainly not a confrontational guy, wasn't trying to be difficult. Can you see that now?
Yeah, I do see that. Again, maybe he was a little bit reserved, but I took that a little too personally, I think. Okay.
You're an hour and a half.
Okay. And so remind me again, how much business did you do in gutters last year? Was it 150K?
Yeah. Yeah. A little over.
And that was just basically since June. Just off of what your last question was, like, do you feel like he was standoffish, and then by me challenging him was also able to get him to kind of change his tune a little bit?
The level of assessment that I'm analyzing, remember first order consequences, second order.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to analyze, did you say the right thing? Did you say the wrong thing? Did it work in your favor? Did it not work in your favor? What I'm trying to analyze is the layer deeper, which is who showed up in the best way possible. And based on what you told me before we hopped on this call, and you were saying, oh well, he was pretty cold, etc.
Yeah.
The level of assessment I'm looking at is you projected something into the call. He didn't cause anything wrong in the call.
Okay.
So I'm just looking at it as, what can we get clarity on that you can improve? Or I'll be the first one to say, if you'd have brought this call and the guy was an absolute asshole, I'd be like, Jeremy, we don't even need to do a call review. The problem's the guy. I'll be the first one to say that.
Yeah.
But obviously, most of the time it's not. Like, in my entire thousands and thousands and thousands of sales calls, I could probably imagine off the top of my head, I've had like, fuck, I don't know, like 2 out of thousands where it was actually the guy was an asshole, as opposed to the guy was a little bit short. I then got triggered. I then made the situation worse and I fucked up the call.
Yeah.
That happened a lot of times. I remember the underground mentor, ripping me to shreds because I was fucking up the call with my own projections or my own need to power through the call, to force my way through the call
Mm-hmm.
and try and make things happen. And I was just turning prospects off, being
Yeah.
too blunt for the sake of trying to, be the fucking silverback. And I was doing that on my calls.
Yeah.
And he had to check me big time on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So how much do you think that you'll be doing this year if nothing else changes?
If nothing else changes, picking up that other roofing company, I think.
Thing I've
I
said
know,
before,
I
it's the
hate that question.
hypothetical. It's just
Yeah.
like, what we need is how much did you do in the last 30 days? What in the last 60? What in the or week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, or something like
Yeah.
that. Very short time frame. Again, going off to what I said, let's look at 3 comparisons based on the most important thing we need to do on a sales call, which is change the prospect's state. 3 different options. Option 1, how many sales did you have in the last 7 days? How many sales in the last 2 weeks? How many sales in the last 30 days? What impact is that going to have on the prospect's state? Option 2, what did the business do last year? Or what did the business do over the last 12 months or the last 18 months? So a much more elongated timeline back into the past. What's that going to do for their state? And then option 3, where is the business going to be in the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 1 year, whatever? If we look at the impact on the state of the person, the one that has the most poignant transformation of their state in unfortunately into a state of pain and suffering, which is what they need to be in if the reality of their situation sucks, the state change that will be the biggest is right now,
Yep.
this week, this 2 weeks, this month.
Yeah.
So as we change timelines of things, we're still getting accurate data based on the timeline that we're asking, but we're not creating a state change. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think we'd be over 450.
450K just in the gutters?
Yep.
Okay. And if you did 450K in gutters, how much net would that give you?
So probably 100.
Okay. What do you want to do instead of just 450? Well, maybe not instead of. How much do you want to do in business in gutters this year?
I'd like to do as much as I can.
Okay. Which 10 million?
Obviously, you're going to get that answer.
Yeah.
If I could do 10 million, I'd do 10 million.
Okay. Well, that's
I
not
just
the,
don't
that's
think that
not
this
realistic.
guy. I still think that this guy was just bullshitting me. You know, like again, I don't think he was really giving me an accurate answer on what his net profit was. I think he was just pulling a number out of his ass. Well, maybe since he's only charging 550, maybe he is only making that much. But it's like again, what he didn't really come like he wasn't really coming to this call to take it seriously.
Just don't agree with you, brother. The reason that he may or may not be answering with the information that you're hoping for is you're not asking the right questions.
I agree with that.
Be this prospect, and I'm going to do 5-10 minutes of data gathering for you. Try and be this prospect. Now, to be clear, don't be your projection of the prospect. Be the actual prospect. Don't be an absolute asshole because you think he's trying to be an asshole.
All right.
All right. So in your opinion, Jeremy, what's the biggest challenge you're having with making money in your gutter business right now?
I mean, there's competition out there. There's a Amish guy that's charging about $5 a foot out there, and I know that there's business out there. I'm in Western New York, so I'm between 2 major cities out there. So I know that there's business out there, but and I'm just not really getting my name out there. So I need to get my name out there.
Okay. So there's business out there. Sounds like it's going to your competitors. And because you don't have your name out there, that business is not coming to you.
Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of business that did come to you, how much business in terms of a dollar amount did you have in the last 7 days?
I don't think I don't think I had any. Sorry.
No
Zero.
business.
Yeah. Yeah. It's,
Zero.
it's New York. It's cold right now. Where, upstate New York, everything's kind of frozen over. So, in the last month, we haven't done anything. We have kind of our busy season, which is like late spring through summer and a little bit through fall. And then,
Okay.
when it gets cold around November, December, it slows down again.
Okay. So you haven't generated any money in the last 30 days.
No, that's correct.
You mentioned this stuff about seasons. You've also mentioned competitors. Is there any businesses in New York that are generating any money during these winter months?
A lot of these businesses, I believe, are at a standstill. When there's a foot of snow on the ground, it's kind of hard you can't really do this kind of work in that. Occasionally we might get a warm day here or there, but you can't, do roofing and stuff like that in, 30-degree temperatures or
Got it.
less.
And so what are you doing in your business to be able to generate income during the time when you can't actually fulfill the service? Are you doing, hey, here's a special offer which you can, cash in on in the summer? Are you selling, you know, gift vouchers or any other type of make money during the slow time, um, product or offer or anything? Or are you just saying, hey, we'll just wave the white flag, we can't do anything?
Yeah, I mean, we try to do some like gutter cleaning stuff out there if possible, but again, if the gutters are frozen, we can't really do that much. So we are
Well,
a
no,
bit in a,
sorry.
sorry.
Hello. To
Yeah.
be clear, I'm not saying to do the work because I understand that,
Okay.
if it's icy.
Just,
What I'm saying is you could be still selling. You could have people that are going out to people's houses saying, hey, now's the perfect time for you to book in for the summer because in the summer we're super busy. And so we're actually going around to everybody's house right now in the winter so that you don't miss out on the opportunity that another summer goes by where you don't make any improvements to your gutters. Do you do
yeah.
anything like that? Do you have
No,
a sales force?
yeah, no, we're not doing that. That's a good idea.
Well, that's probably why you're on the call with me. Okay, so you haven't got any way you haven't made any money for the last month, and you don't actually have anything in place to be able to resolve that, for this winter or next winter, it doesn't seem like.
No.
Okay. Is that something that you'd like to resolve?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So no money for the last month. What about the month before? How much did you generate the month before?
Yeah, no, January, nothing. And then I think in the first half of December, we did 10,000.
Okay, so $0 for the last 60 days, and then
Yeah.
$10,000 the month before.
Yeah.
During those last 60 days, have you had any outgoing money, like staff or software or
Yes.
premises? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
How much have you lost over? Because I mean, if you haven't made any money, you've literally been losing money. How much money have you lost in the last 30 days?
That's a good question. I haven't thought about that, but yeah, we do have expenses that are about $10,000 a month. So that,
Every month.
yeah, about $8,000 on average.
So for the last 60 days, you have your inability to have your name out there, to have any type of sales training that helps you sell during the slower months has cost you 16,000 in the last 60 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you now have the awareness of that, how do you feel?
I feel like, we'll make it up in the busy season, like we'll do over and above, and it'll kind of end up, evening out in the wash. It's
So,
like a
so
feast or
you don't,
famine kind of thing.
right? I mean, is that what you want? Do you want your business to be that you only make money for certain months of the year and you just lose money the other months of the year, and then you're constantly playing catch up with feast or famine?
No,
Is that how you
no,
want your business to be?
no. I definitely want it to be more consistent. If anything, being, even if I could just break even, let's say, on the slow months, and then
Right?
still make more money in the busier months, that would be better. Obviously, it'd be nice to be profitable all year round. I'm sure there's other companies that are.
Yep, makes sense. Okay. So your average expenses per month is 8,000. And we've talked now about the couple of months where there was no money coming in, just money going out. The month before that was $10,000. I want to get a clear picture of kind of a 12-month cycle here.
Yeah.
So during the last year, when it was the busy period, what did you generate? I guess we could average it on an average monthly basis during the peak season.
Yeah, I mean, we really started focusing on gutters in June, and we did 150 from June through January, or through December. So, there was
6 months.
yeah, 6 months. Yeah.
Okay, so 150,000 divided by 6.
About 25,000, something like that.
20. Yeah, it is 25,000. Okay, so averaging $25,000 a month, and that's income. And during those months, because you've got now people out there doing work, is your expenses the same, 8,000, or is it more?
It's a little bit more. I'd probably say it's around that $10,000 mark.
Got it.
10, well, maybe 12. Yeah.
Okay, let's say 10 to 12. So during the season when you get the most amount of business that you ever do get in the year, you're profiting just about $13,000 a month, and that's for about 6 months. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
The other 6 months, how many of those other 6 months is it the zero incoming?
Well, it's probably mainly just about 3 or 4 months in the winter time
Okay, so
because,
four months is, yeah, perfect. I'll come to the next bit in a second. I'm just trying to
okay.
keep track of everything.
Sure.
So 4 months, you're losing $8,000 a month. So that's $32,000 in the negative. And then what about the other 2 months? Is that the 10,000 coming in?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So that's 20,000 coming in minus, let's just call it $10,000 a month. So it's basically zero for those months. It's just break even. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So 150,000 minus 32,000, not including the break even months because it's no positive or negative. Does that mean your business in the last 12 months did 118,000?
No, that can't be right. My math must be off because I know that he said on the role play that it was about 25%, because he said on 150,000, I think he said he was around 25%. Because at 450, he was thinking he'd be about $100,000. So I'm sorry, Josh.
No
I'm
worries at all.
pulling numbers out of my ass for the role play.
Exactly. Let's just go with the number I said because
Okay.
the
Okay.
number doesn't matter. What
Okay.
matters is you being able to see how I'm piecing everything together.
Okay.
So $118,000. Now, what I then want to know, so that's what you're making. How are you getting that business that you are getting during the summer months?
Yeah, I've got a couple of pole barn companies that we're working with. They've got about 6 or 7 crews, and we're doing the bulk of our business with them. They're big jobs, they're 100-foot, jobs, straight runs and stuff. And then we've got another company that we do some residential work with, a roofer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got the pole barn. So that's, and the residential with the roofer. So those are the only two ways right now that you get your name out.
Yeah, right now, but we did just buy some signs. So now that we're going to put those signs, once those are printed off, they should be coming in today, as a matter of fact. that whenever we go do our any business, we'll put the signs up out in the areas that we're working with and hopefully get our name out there a little more.
Okay, so you've got a new thing with the signs. Out of curiosity, did you book in this call with me after you'd already ordered the signs?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So what was the reason that you didn't want to just try out the signs first and see how that goes? You still wanted to potentially work with me to increase your sales.
I'm just trying to, I want to do as much as possible, you know, just to,
Why is that? Why not just crush it with the signs?
well, not sure if it would,
How do you
you
mean?
know, well, I'm just, I saw your ad and I figured, you might have some information.
Oh,
So,
no. Sorry, not about the ad. Sorry, I know we crossed lines there.
oh,
Why don't you think the signs are going to solve this problem for you?
well, it's just an unknown. It's just very passive. So, I mean, I think it's just one of those things where, every little bit counts. I think it's, probably going to be, 20% of the income might come from signs, but I'm looking to not just add 20% of my business. I'm trying to look to, triple and quadruple my business.
Why is that the number that you're aiming for, 3 to 4x?
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm trying to get up to where this thing does about 750 a year. We did 150 over those 6 months, and I'm hoping that this year I'll be able to do, 450 or 500. But I think that there's, if we can learn how to, sell better and just get our name out there more and do, get ads and stuff going, that there's no reason why we couldn't do 750 plus.
Okay, so was there kind of a turning point for you where you realized that, sure, you're trying things with the signs, but was there a turning point where you realized we need to get trained on how to sell better and get our name out there in a more active way? Because you mentioned the signs are very passive. Was there a turning point where that happened in the business?
Yeah, well, I was talking with my sons about it, the other week, that, it's a new year and we're trying to, talk about what we want to accomplish with this business. So I hadn't really thought about it like that, but, it's, yeah, I just know that, I want to grow this thing. I know it can do better.
What are your sons' involvement with the business?
They work for me. One works in the construction company, and then one works in the gutter company as labor right now.
Okay. And so you had this conversation with your sons, and you said we can grow this, we should grow this, we need to grow this. Had you never wanted to grow the business prior to that conversation?
Oh no, I mean we've always wanted to grow it. It was just taking a look at the year-end numbers. You know, I happened to come across your ad, so it was just good timing.
Well, there is such a thing as divine timing, but I'm sure you've come across ads before of people that are offering to help your sales, offering to help get your name out there, marketing people, things like
Right,
that.
right.
So what was it about when you looked at your end, because you said you looked at the end of year numbers and that seems significant for you as far as a turning point to we need to learn how to sell better and get our name out there. What what happened when you looked at the numbers?
Just knowing that I want to make this bigger for my son to take over, you know. I mean, we just we only have two companies, two big companies that we're working with. And so just wanting to add more companies to work with and ultimately being able to get away from not just being the subcontract work, but also being able to do the residential work, and being able to charge what we want to charge.
Okay. you mentioned you want your son to take over the business. Take over in what way?
Oh, I mean, in about 3 or 4 years, I want them to be. I want to be able to retire. I'm 43 right now, and they're my sons are like 22 and 24, and I'm just wanting to get them set up to where they can, you know, have a profitable business that they can, that'll put them in a better position than when I started it.
Okay. And I mean, the business is profitable. It generates $118,000 a year.
Mhm.
Why not just give them that business?
Well, instead of them just, trying to get by and struggle, I want them to be in a better position.
Okay.
Literally, that was a question that I asked, and he said, so I'm giving you as best of answers as I possibly can based on stuff we
Perfect.
did end up talking about later.
Perfect. And so you don't want them to just get by and you don't want them to struggle. I mean, I understand that your sons work for you, but why do you want them to be doing more than getting by and, not struggling but prospering by having this business rather than them, maybe go off and work for someone else or set up their own new business? Why do you want this to happen through passing down a more profitable version of your business?
Well, I mean, this is why I started the business in the first place,
What
was
is?
to be able to pass on something to them. Obviously, as you can tell, I'm not in the best of health, and I'm wanting to make sure that they are set up in a way that if I'm no longer around, that they are going to be able to you know be doing very well for themselves. It took me 20 years to get to this point, and I want to just give them a head start in life.
It took you 20 years to get the business to $150,000 a year?
Well, no, I mean, I have the construction company that does about 2.5 million a year. The gutters
Okay.
we just started doing like 6 months ago.
Oh, okay. So this is a completely separate company. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah. So one company will go to one son, the other company will go to the other son.
Why not just give both sons 1 million from the one business and just, this seems like this one, 150,000 6 months in, why not just give them the $2 million business and say, hey guys, here's 1 million each?
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I did ask something similar to that. I was like, well, have you just considered like selling the business and just giving them the money? Or I was like, well, one's doing 150,000, one's doing 2.5. Do you like one over the other? It was kind of a funny, and you kind of reacted the same way I did, so that's good to know. No, I'm sorry. I got sidetracked there. Go
No
ahead and
worries.
ask the question again.
Yeah, so I mean, what I'm not clear on is why don't you just either give the two sons you have 50% of the $2.5 million a year business, or focus your efforts to grow that business more, which already has momentum, already, has economies of scale. Why not just focus on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I want to get the gutter business up, to where they're about even, you know. Um,
Yeah,
I
so
guess
what I'm
I
not clear on though is why not just grow the first company to 4 million then, or 5 million, because it's already
yeah,
got legs.
that's a good question. I wish I would have asked more. But I didn't. So, well, I just don't want them to have to squabble or fight over, 50% ownership and, in one business. If they
Well,
both had 50% ownership or something. I don't know. I'm making this shit up right now, Josh.
yeah. I think that's probably where the conversation would have started to get into what's really going on,
Yeah.
because it sounds like for most of what we did there, we're following the line of what was actually going on the call.
Yeah.
At that point, if the guy is saying he's got a 2.5 million business and he now wants to grow this gutter one, my intuition, having been a closer for a long time, is there might be something going on with the $2.5 million business. Like
Mm,
it's some maybe gonna crumble for some reason. Like
yeah.
maybe I'm wrong, but in what reality does someone have a 2.5 million a year business and go, you know what, let's just start a brand new business instead of just scaling the other one? Even if the best case scenario is the guy turned around and said, Jeremy, we've had that business for 20 years. We got to 2.5 million after 2 years, and for 18 years we've tried everything to make it grow. It just won't fucking grow.
Mm.
Now we've closed that objection. Okay, so so what I'm wondering then, Jeremy, is when did you get to the point of realizing we've tried everything, this isn't growing, the only way I can give my sons more so that they don't just get by and they don't struggle is I have to set up a new business? When did you come to that point? Oh, as I said, Jeremy, 6 months ago, we opened the gutter business. Okay, what happened 6 months ago? Well, me and my son sat down and you know, they had a heart to heart with me and said, listen, Dad, you know, we've been trying to grow this construction business and we've put in money, we've put in time, blood, sweat, tears. It just isn't growing. Maybe we should just try something new. Okay, great. Then another objection that I need to cover is, how did you grow the construction business to 2.5 million? In other words, why not just do what you'd figured out on your own with the construction business? Because imagine a reality where he turns around and says, oh, dude, we just did signs. I'd be like, well, sounds like that worked pretty well for the construction business. I don't think you need me. And then he has to come back into my frame and sell himself on, no, Jeremy, because signs are completely fucking different in the gutter business. Oh, really? Why is that? Well, because of blah, 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 blah. He's going to have to sell himself on why he can't do what he did for the construction business with the gutter business. Another way I can attack that is, what were you doing in terms of outside help 6 months into the construction business? Oh, Jeremy, 6 months in, we'd set everything up and I hired a sales specialist or whatever. Oh, okay, cool. So you're just repeating the process that works so well for you. My next question then, why me? Now we've covered all of those different angles of objections. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's probably as far as we need to go in the role play, because really what I wanted to show was the data gathering as far as the months, the profits, the this, the that. We just carried on naturally anyway.
It's pissing me off too, because I swear I've been coaching my people on this all week long. It's like a big aha, and then I didn't fucking do it myself.
It's always easier from the outside looking in, brother.
Yeah.
All right. I think we've pretty much covered a lot of internal stuff on today's training, and we've covered a lot of the discovery and the data gathering. Is there anything else that you want to role play, or you want to ask, or you want to get feedback on from what we've done today, or anything else as far as where you're at now in terms of your sales?
Yeah, the most powerful part was just seeing how I could have handled the beginning of that call better, and feeling like there was some friction there, and realizing that I'm projecting whatever insecurities onto it. And so that was the most impactful. I might come back to you at the Unicorn Mastermind meetup next week, and maybe find another spot where we focus on blank to blank time period. So all right, appreciate it, Josh. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure, brother. My pleasure. All right, I'll see you soon.
Thanks for the date night.
My pleasure. My pleasure. See you soon, Underground Jeremy.
Yeah, bye.
Talk soon. Bye. All right, guys. Wow. What a banger, if I say so myself. So I said a lot in the rant that I went on in the middle of the training, and really that was just the truth. The truth about how you have to decide where you're going to align yourself on this journey of being a high ticket closer. You're going to align yourself with, I want to be a legend. I want to be the top 0.0001%. I want to get fucking rich. I want to master human behavior. And as we talked about there with Underground Jeremy, which again is just an insider joke, mastering yourself. Mastering yourself. Whether you're an absolute beginner in high ticket closing, or you are what you would think is a seasoned vet, you are going to lose as much, if not more deals from the internal problems in you and your behaviors and your personality that needs evolving than you will from a lack of sales skill development. So we've covered choosing a side. We've covered how that then prevented Jeremy in this case from gathering the data that he knew he needed to gather, diving then into what's really going on, pre-handling, as you saw me do there at the end, all the different objections. But what I want to finish on most importantly is it's great that you're here on this YouTube roleplay, or call review, in fact, in this instance. And it's great that you're attempting to do what you can from my free content. But this heart-to-heart that Jeremy and I had is going to transform him. Watch what happens over the next few weeks, over the next few months, when Jeremy implements the psychosomatic, which is brain and body, the spiritual integrative change that I just helped him go through. He will explode in his results, because that's what happens when you transform from the ground up, when you transform internally and holistically. And that transformation you are not going to have by watching me do it with Jeremy, or to be blunt, do it to Jeremy. You will only have that transformation if I train you through your personal leaks, through your money leaks, the misintegration of who you are as a person, which is preventing you from making more money by closing more deals and showing up in the right way. Inside the Unicorn Closer Mastermind, what I just did with Jeremy is not a rarity. I do that every single Wednesday with closers on our live training. Take them through what their personal bottlenecks are and help them realign to a higher, more superior, more powerful, authentic version of themselves. If that is something that you know you need now, because you're losing deals that you could be closing, that you should be closing, that you're not closing, and letting prospects down, click the link somewhere below this video and hop in. Actually take action. Don't be one of those people that sits there, watches some free training and says, oh, I'm good, I'll do. Because remember what I said in the rant. There are people who have names, real human beings with kids, with spouses, with family members, with parents, that you are letting down. And you are letting them down because you're not choosing to show up with a higher level of commitment to this craft. High ticket closing is an art and a science. It is not memorizing word tracks. It is not canned lines, and it's certainly not a script. It is about learning humans. I learned humans and human behavior and understanding people through mastering scriptless selling and internal mastery. And the result of that was me being able to do what I just did with transforming Jeremy in real time on this call that you got to be a fly on the wall, because my skill set is not just my bullshit scripted questions and that's all I can do. My skill set is I could see what was going on with Jeremy. I could feel it. I could sense it. I had the consciousness, the awareness, the presence. And I was then able to use communication to actually help him through a personal challenge and through a personal bottleneck. If you want that ability, you have to stop with this scripted, canned line bullshit. And you have to actually join a mastermind where true helping people is what we're all about. The Unicorn Closer Mastermind is for people just like Jeremy that care, that have a heart, that have a soul, that truly want to have an impact in the world. And the first person that you have to impact if you want to have a positive impact out there is inside you. You need to align yourself with a group, with a mentor, with a standard where you look yourself in the mirror. You hold the mirror up and you say, I need to change. I need to be better. I need to become more. If you're willing to have that honest self-reflection, and you then want to take that honest diagnosis of the reality of where you're currently at, and from there, springboard into where you could be, click the link below and join the Unicorn Closer Mastermind. And I'll be honored to see you on the inside.